So I've had this Eumenia saw for a long time. I think I bought it in the 1990s. It got in a bit of a state really, and wasn't cutting very accurate, so it was time for a bit of a makeover. It's a good piece of kit, but it just got in a bit of a dilapidated state. So I had to make a few decisions really, what I really wanted to do with it, and kind of restrict it to some of the key operations that I wanted to do. So the main thing I do is cutting pieces of wood to length, obviously, which is what you do with a radial arm saw normally. Miters and things, the original table on here could swivel to any angle, but in actual fact I only really use it for 45-degree miters. So I was quite happy if I could just restrict it to that. The other thing I wanted to really do is that I haven't got a table saw or anything, and I would really like to be able to use it for ripping down bits and pieces of wood. It's never going to be brilliant, radial arm saw is not great at that kind of thing, but I wanted to see if I could improve it a bit to get that to work. So I made a few sacrifices and I've kind of adapted it around what I needed to do, but it's working really well. First of all, I put a new table on here, made out of some phenolic ply, a little bit like the original kind of table that you get with the Eumenia years ago. Obviously later versions had a much wider table. I also wanted a really good fence on it, so I got some 40mm by 40mm aluminium, quite thick, I think it's about 4mm thick, and made up a good fence along there. And I've used these kind of nut inserts. They're about, you drill an 8mm hole and they're 13mm deep, the little nut inserts, and you can just drop them in wherever you want. So I've used those to clamp the fence onto the back there, which is, yeah, works really well, that part of it. Yeah, so these are the inserts that I use. You can buy them off of eBay, they're cheap. Like I say, they really work well. They're great for making up jigs and things like that. So the fence was clamped right on at the back there, and then I wanted to make up some sort of length stop really that I could use. So basically I put a bit of 20mm by 20mm extrusion on the back there. And also I wanted a kind of tape measure actually built in. So what I did was I took one of these little kind of rulers that you can get that are dirt cheap. This is a plastic one, they're kind of a little bit flexible, etc. But useful for this. I cut it down into sections and sandwiched it together with a piece of wood on the back there and glued it down, and then clamped the whole thing through with some bolts that run through the back onto T-nuts in the 20mm section. So that's given me a really rigid fence here, and it's yeah, great. Then I've got another T section here with a small piece of aluminium there that I just milled up to fit into the slot, and then I can just stop that wherever I want. And because the Eumenia needs to kind of come across, I needed this extra section here, which I can adjust with a an Allen bolt on there, drop through, and yeah, I can move that to wherever I want really. So I've got about a meter's worth of fence on there now, which hopefully I'll turn it around there in a bit, and so this pretty much covers everything I want to do. This also flips out of the way if I just want a longer section in there. Works really well, it's great, it's just so easy to set up, and yeah, just what I wanted. On the original, this extra support here was just a piece of ply really, and which clamped onto these two sections here, which wasn't very good. So I made up a much longer table, much longer support, and with the help of an extra bit of aluminium in there, which I actually bolted right through because it needs to be really secure. This has given me a really rigid table. I had to just slightly rebate the aluminium in there just to get it at the exact height. But yeah, works really well. Can put it on wherever I want, got much better support, and it's much improved if I want to do some ripping now. One of the other key things that I had to make a decision on, and this might seem a little bit restrictive but it was essential really, is that obviously I've made this table here a lot longer than it would be normally, so I needed to support it anyway. But what I've found in the past is that if you try and use the saw for ripping, you've got so much leverage on the piece of wood that you're putting through that this table will just move out if you rely just on the clamps underneath it. So in my case, the actual table here is bolted to the frame that I've got here that I mount the saw on, so it's completely rigid. There's no way it's going to move around, and I think that's really important if you're going to try and do any ripping on it. So this is the saw set up in ready for ripping, and as you can see, I've got rather than using the fence at the back there, I made up another fence that just fits on to the table through the normal fixings, as it were, bolts down, and that just allows me to get this saw down just below the table depth, which I think is quite important really when you're trying to rip. And it also allows me to just snug this extra table up to the blade, as it were, so you got a nice position to come across there. I mean, obviously I can, you know, the saw can move backwards and forwards as you need it, and you can move this table out to whatever kind of width you want to rip. One of the other problems really with trying to use the saw in this mode is that if you do it, you get absolutely covered in dust. So I made up this extra little hood here, which can adjust just through this little screw on the front. On the Eumenia, there's a little kind of hole that's left in the casting here. I don't know what it's for really, probably has some sort of purpose, but I just used that. I made up a little tapered nut that fits in there that I can screw up against, and just with a little bit of a plexiglass, just made up this hood that can raise or lower, and actually as you come out a little bit further away from the fence, you can drop it right down to whatever your depth of your piece of wood is. One of the other key things I needed to make really is some sort of decent push stick, and I made this kind of arrangement here. I'll just move it out a little bit because I'm normally ripping slightly wider than that. So this push stick just makes it a little bit safer really. If you as you get to your point through here, you need to push your piece of wood right the way through, and this is just long enough really so that it clears the blade this side and you're free. Just makes the operation a lot safer really. Just show you a little bit of the detail here. It's the clamps that I hold the fence on. My hood just on this screw here. Whilst I've got the camera on, you can just see a little bit of the detail at the back here, clamped on, etc. So we've got the fence on, guards on each side. This is what I made up for mitering. A couple of reasons why I made this really. I always used to find when I move this round, you end up with so many different tracks on your table, and it gets in a real mess after a while. So I made this extra box. It sits up about 40mm on the top just to clear the fence at the back. So consequently I have to raise up the saw, which is no problem. So I'm a little bit restricted maybe in the depth I can do, but it's still ample for the depth of cut that I can actually make with the blade anyway. So I fixed a couple of bits of aluminium there to act as the mitre guide. Obviously when you do this you have to get the thing dead right, but there is a certain amount of adjustment because I made a slightly wider hole on this section on this nut here, and so I could actually tune it a little bit. Also the table itself is held down by two fixings either side here, and there's a little bit of adjustment on there, so when I put it on I just make sure I'm in the right slot each time. The The other thing I did was I put a support at the back here for longer sections. Gives me a nice fence to go on and supports the piece nicely. I can have another roller support out the other side if I need to, but it just makes mitering so simple really, and it's not a big deal to just put this extra table on when I actually want to do it. You know, it's as easy to set up as it would be to start moving this table around, and every time you move the table around you then got to get it back in the right position. So this way I never have to reset my main fence, etc. I just plonk this bit on the top here when I want to do a mitre, and take it off, and I'm back to normal really. So just a quick word about the blade I'm using in here. It's a Bosch blade actually. It's 47 teeth I think, and it's about 2.4mm kerf on it. Absolutely perfect for this saw, really works really well, and yeah, just the job. Just a standard blade, quite good value as well, quite reasonable online, and you know, gives you a really nice cut straight off the saw, which is what you want. So there you go. Eumenias can be picked up pretty cheap these days. A lot of people kind of misunderstand them and the way that they're cutting, and they don't quite get how they're working, because they're a little bit different to a normal kind of DeWalt or that type of radial arm saw where you're pulling out. This you're pushing in. People kind of misunderstand them really, but it's a useful tool. There's all manner of different accessories and things you can get for them. Like I said, I've got an extendable arm on here. I've got all the router and drill bracket that also fits onto this rail here that you can use. I don't suppose I use that so much these days, but yeah, it's been a good old tool, and I think with a little bit of thought about how you set it up, it can, you know, give you some really accurate cuts, etc., and be really useful. I suppose my upgrade, because I had a few bits and pieces already, I suppose I spent about £70, but I suppose for about £100 you could upgrade your Eumenia if you've got one. Yeah, hopefully it'll be useful to somebody anyway. Cheers.